So, and let's share that. Oops. So, welcome to another Career Pivot Office Hours. Normally Elizabeth would be here, but her hard drive on her PC died over the weekend, and she's getting a brand new baby hard drive. And she just tried to come in over her phone, her Android phone. That didn't work for whatever reason. I'm presuming she's watching. And Elizabeth, if you're able to watch, why don't you message me on Slack and let me know that you can hear me. But with that said, this is all based off one of the second most popular posts on Career Pivot. It's what if you're not passionate about anything? This is one of my very, very early posts done in May of 2012. The actual blog was launched 2011, middle of the year 2011. So this was pretty early on. And the little bars that you can see in the little graphic in the middle in the blab screen, that is based off my Birkman assessment. And with the Birkman assessment, it measures interest. It's what are you interested in? And it measures from 1 to 99. And anything over 90 is something you have to have in your life. Well, if you notice, the top one is 82. I have 4 at 82. It's mechanical, social service, scientific, and persuasive are those top 4. And then the 70 is outdoors. I am typical of what I now have a term for, which is a multi-potentialite. Multi-potentialites, which was a term, there's a site called Putty Light, and it's mentioned in this blog post that multi-potentialites have broad sets of interests. And I originally wrote this because, you know what? Every 3 or 4 years in my career, I've gotten bored and want to do something different. And when I posted this, I got 2 very divergent responses. I got, wow, you're just like me. I didn't think anyone out there was just like me. I'm not passionate about anything. Or I got a response which said, oh, don't you have a pulse? Everybody has passion about something. And the answer is, no, that's not true. And so I'm going to lock the seat to make sure no one gets in. The reality is multi-potentialites. Well, this one just, it said, it is amazing. I originally was surprised at its initial reaction. I got a lot of both hate mail and just people thanking me profusely for writing it. And then this thing is found something like 50 times a day on on Google search. It's been found, I looked at right before, 37,000 times in the last 4 years. It is the second most read post on the website, behind the one we discussed last week, which was talents versus skills. And I said, I was absolutely blown away. Now, since I have done research on this, and by the way, this concept of not being passionate makes up about 15% of the population. It's a very, very small but significant portion of the population. And I've done a number of, I did a Birkman on a gentleman who was a very top finance guy in one of the Western states. And his top score was 79, and it just rippled down from that. And he was now in his 50s and was trying to figure out, okay, what's going to make me happy? And He had an MBA, he had a CPA, he had a JD, he had a master's degree in law. The reality is he likes to learn. And this is a common thread among these people, including me, that they like to be pushed. They like to be stretched. They don't like doing the same thing over and over and over again. Similarly, this last year, I did a Berkman for a woman who was a IT project manager, a very successful one. And she had gone through a bunch of, I like to joke, bad divorces. She was seduced into jobs. The jobs ended up not being what she thought they'd be, and then was divorced. And one of the common themes was she'd go in, do a project on a specific technology, and then they would ask her to do the next project after a year. And she kind of went, okay. And then after that was done, they said, well, we're going to have you do it again. And she would get annoyed. And they said, but we're putting you in your comfort zone. And the reality is her comfort zone is never to do the same thing twice. That's really unusual for IT project managers. Let's say IT project managers want to learn a technology, get good at it, and stay and do it. And what we discussed was that she had to clearly communicate. She was different. She was special. For her, being stretched was good. And she always wanted to be stretched. She always wanted to be learning. So this is when you're in a profession where people like to get comfortable, or you're in a job category where people get comfortable, and you're one of these multi-potentialites, you're going to look very strange. So it's interesting that this is found so frequently on Google search. And it used to be I could see the search terms, and it's always it's always something about why am I not passionate? And in our society programs into us that we are supposed to be passionate about something. And the reality is these people, including myself, we're not passionate about any one thing. Usually it is either a combination of things, or we want to learn something. Well, if you look at this blog post, there's a link to a multi-potentialite blog post where there's a TED Talk where the woman who started this, and I can't remember her name, but her website's Putty Light. She's a lawyer. She's got a bunch of different stuff. And one of the things she always talked about in her TED Talk was she would get into something, go into it really deep, start getting good at it, and then get bored with it. So if that sounds at all familiar, yes, Emily Wapnick, yeah, something like that. It's quite fascinating. And her website's quite fascinating. I highly recommend you pay attention, because Emily spent a lot of time thinking something's wrong with her. Now, what does this say about our current work environments? Well, we have gone, when I entered the workplace in the 1970s, big companies ruled, and big companies largely wanted generalists. They wanted people who could do a lot of different things. In fact, many of the companies back then, they wanted you to move from function to function to function. They had rotational programs. To be a generalist was good. That shift, then there was a shift starting in the 1990s to specialists. And we have progressively walked down the specialization ever since. We no longer want people who are very, very wide, but not very deep skill-wise, versus people who are very narrow skills and very, very deep. And this is a real crux, because a lot of us, there's a significant portion of the population that is our generalists. And unfortunately, we don't necessarily fit in. And so when we finally get to this point of, passion, am I interested in doing something and getting really deep and good at it and keep on doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it? I'm sorry, I'm not one of those guys. In fact, when I started Career Pivot, I am following the model of my business coach, who Sherry always managed. She always claimed to change her business 15 to 20% every year. In other words, doing it on purpose is just trying to keep things fresh. And that's one of the things I am doing. That's the fun thing of doing these office hours, trying to do something different every year, and that keeps myself interested. So, does anyone on the line, does this resonate with you? If you want to type in the chat box, are you one of these people who has a hard time, who's not necessarily passionate about what they do? Or one of the common ones, I just had a phone call with a gentleman today, guy who has a PhD in psychology, and one of the issues he talked about was he liked to learn. And this is one of the things we find with a lot of folks who tend to be multi-potentialites or aren't passionate about anything, is what they are passionate about is just simply learning. So I'm going to unlock the seat. We're about 12 minutes in, and I've been rambling along long enough, and see if anybody wants to hop in or type into the live chat. And let me know what you think, because this is a far more common syndrome than people think. And as I said, it is in fact, I'm just doing a Berkman for a woman out of DC, where she's got one low and everything else is clustered in the middle. And yes, she's managed throughout her career to get bored. So I'm going to let Dan in and see if Dan can get in. There we are. How are you, sir?
Hey, there we are. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Oh, good.
So does this resonate with you?
Oh, completely. And, it actually, brings up one of the issues that I'm having is my resume is all over the place. Really the only common thread that I kind of point out to people is that I've always done something in a helping profession. But, I'm at the point now where I'm finding it very difficult to kind of sell myself because of exactly what you spoke about. I mean, I think for me, it's wanting to learn different things and getting bored. So yeah. It's kind of sad to hear that generalists aren't valued.
Well, there's no question. The theme that you just described of going, wow, I've got all these different disparate things, which when I put on a resume, it looks like a jumble of stuff. It's rather every week I get this stuff from LinkedIn about what jobs, they find jobs for me, and what they can't do is figure me out. Because, in my last 5 jobs, I've got Career Pivot. Prior to that, I worked in learning development for Life Size. Prior to that, I was at the Jewish Community Center doing nonprofit fundraising. Prior to that, I was teaching high school math. And prior to that, I was at another tech startup, and they're kind of a semiconductor this time. And they're kind of going, they've got all these algorithms, and they're just kind of going, what do we do with this guy?
Yeah, I don't even pay attention to those things anymore because it's kind of pointless.
Yeah.
At least from my perspective, to answer ads And, it's funny because my wife will, the last job I had was doing communications for a company. And so, LinkedIn will, set 30 jobs for a communications person. And, it's for the perfect person in that field, and I don't match it. So I've just tried to do a lot of networking. But I really would be interested in hearing what you have to say about the resume situation, because it seems
you're cutting in and out audio wise. You may want to turn off your camera. That might help some. But the challenge.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
The challenge is with the resume when you apply, you really need to get focused. By the way, I just found an interesting tool called jobscan.co. And what JobScan will do is take your resume and compare it to a job description, and tell you how closely you match. And again, the resume of a multi-potentialite, or someone who has really all these broad interests, is really hard. And other than it, this is not unlike I've worked with a lot of Dell refugees. And Dan, I'm gonna bump you out because you're creating a lot of static in there. But one of the challenges is I've had with Dell refugees is they will tell me, well, I can do product management, I can do product management, I can do program management, I can do product marketing, I can do sales, I can do development, I can do all these different things. And the answer comes, what you're just telling me is you suck at everything, because you can't be good at all of it. And it's a real challenge. And again, this is a challenge that many who are, again, multi-potentialites, who are, again, not passionate about anything, struggle with. So does anybody else want to hop in? And by the way, I recorded Dan on that. Probably wasn't a very good recording. And if you pop on and don't want to be recorded, just tell me and I'll make sure and turn it off. But does anybody have any questions? Want to type into the live chat? Or anybody have an opinion that you want to express? We've got a few people online. We've got a lot of people who are stalking. Stalking is okay. So what do people think about when you're read? What attracted you from the title? What if you're not passionate about anything? And why do you think this gets found so often? Does anybody want to jump in? Grab a seat. Well, here's Stan the man.
Okay.
Well, Dan, I'm getting a ton of feedback from you, Sam. You turn your audio. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I am getting it. I'm getting a horrible echo from you. Okay. Mike Lamb said, I like to learn a lot of things and not go deep in anything. Yep. I would think those people would be more valuable than the deep skills, but saying that's not the case. No, today everyone's looking for specialists, particularly in the technology world. So Mike, what do you do? Go ahead and type it in the message box. And Warren, your software, how long have you been doing it? 16 years. So are you seeing people have you gotten more specialized over time? I was a member of the Putty Like website for a while, decided that I didn't fit. Interesting. Oh, that's Stan. So Mike, are you finding that you're a generalist, or is getting you moved to different projects and led teams? Yeah. Folks who don't, as I said, this is a group that one of the key things is be able to move around and do different things. And Mike says, I like to learn a lot of things, not go deep into anything. I think those peoples would be more valuable than the deep skills. Yeah, we read that before. I'm looking on the other side. Yeah, it's today when technology is moving very fast, this is where sometimes multi-potentialites actually can be of value in the technology space. But if you were to, I've got several clients who work for big consulting houses, and boy, they want people very narrow and very deep, and not interested in the. There are a few people they want to be high-level architects, but everybody else they want very, very deep. Anybody else wants to chime in? Yeah, it's interesting in the at both my startups. The first one was Agira, which was a processor startup, semiconductors, and semiconductor is very, very specialized. And the other one is I was at a high definition video conferencing startup, Life Size. Again, a lot of very, very specialized skills, and there were very few of us who were generalists. Almost 90% of the technical people were all very deep and very narrow. And Mike writes, as a software engineer, I'm not a hardcore coder and enjoy leading teams more. Yep. Interested in pursuing management or product management, which allows you, which allows you not to be as deep. Good product managers. In fact, I work with a lot of product managers. I branded my last one. We branded him the mortar of brick and mortar. In other words, he was good at binding it, bringing everything together. He wasn't deep, but he was good at getting development, talking to publications, talking to procurement, talking to manufacturing, sales, getting everyone, product marketing, everyone talking together. So anybody else wants to chime in? Do we have any other multi-potentialites out there? Does this surprise you? As I said, what I have seen, this makes up probably 15 to 20% of the population. Let's see if Stan can get in. Don't have the feedback this time. There we are. Hey, Stan. That's better.
Is it better? I switched software drivers for the mic. I had a choice of two Microsoft ones, and I picked the other.
Okay, yeah, this is definitely better. I'm still hearing a teeny bit of echo, but not much.
Okay. Well, I was on the Putty Like site for a while and decided I didn't fit. And I thought I'm a multi-potentialite, but these people were all over the place.
Yes.
I kind of restrict myself to the like math and science and quantitative stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no question. The folks who tend to go to Putty Light tend to be at the very extreme. Emily, I don't know how you pronounce her name. She is a very, very extreme multi-potentialite. She got a very, very short attention span from an interest, should say interest span, maybe not attention span. Loves to find something, go deep, and then, okay, I learned it. Okay, let's do something else.
Yeah, Pamela Slim talks about it too, but she has a different term for it. She kind of has a model where you skim along the surface and find something you're interested in, then you take a deep dive and come back up for air after you lose interest and move on to something else.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the things I realized after I did this Berkman assessment, as I went back and looked, I'm tended to switch jobs every 3 years because I get bored. And the only job that I really had a long time was I was in a mechanical engineering group. And I was there for about 7 years. And I had to fight to get out because I had developed a very specialized skill that nobody else had, and they didn't want to let me go. I was dealing with mechanical engineering software on mainframes and just a lot of really specialized stuff in the 1980s. And I finally they switched bosses, and I never forget, Bubba Johns decided, yeah, we're gonna let you go. We're gonna let you go. And
all right.
And what I ended up doing was I ended up going on a temporary assignment, working for a sales group, and I would still sit in the area just in case they needed me. and I did that for 6 months, and so they could prove they could live without me. Because I was miserable. I had gotten sick of it. I was bored.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's and for many people, the what I have seen is the 2 to 4 year cycles of you're going to go do something for 2 to 4 years and then kind of go, I don't want to do this anymore. And so, yeah, it's interesting. Both my startups, I was there. I was at Agira approximately 3.5 years, and I was at Lifesize a little over 3 years. And I was getting antsy. I wanted to move on.
Yeah, I've gotten that feeling too. Between 2 and 4 years now that you bring it up,
yeah,
either switch companies or switch job functions when the opportunity came up.
Yep. So, does anybody else want to hop in?
Okay, I'll X out.
Okay. We're going on a half hour. So if nobody else to hop in, I'm going to give you another second. I am not sure what the next session will be. I'll pick the topic probably tomorrow. You can always go in the office hours page, which is now, many of you may notice that I just rethemed the website. If you go look at the website and you like it, dislike it, find an error, please email me. We're still fixing stuff. It is, and you can email me at Mark, it's MARC @careerpivot.com. And if you are, because I'm recording this, if you see this on YouTube, please go to the bottom and give a like. Share if you see it in the blog post, which I'll put up Tuesday morning. Please share it. And we will see you next week. And my guess is next week we're going to talk about being institutionalized in your job. I did a blog post called the 4 signs that you're institutionalized, like Brooks and Shawshank Redemption. And we're seeing, I personally am seeing a lot of institutionalization from people who are finally being told they need to leave their companies. So with that, thank you very much. I'm going to stop the recording.